Well, greetings and thank you for joining me on Myth Busting with Keystone Wealth Partners, this short podcast that is geared for our clients. So if you're receiving this, you're one of our Keystone clients. We value, we appreciate you, and I want to make sure if you're unable to listen to the radio show, that I'm still getting you some of the information that I'm sharing with folks on the radio show so that you also can be thinking about some of these things, making sure that we're doing these within your plan, and that you're considering some of the things that we're talking with folks about every day and through the radio show on Saturday mornings. The last several weeks, we've been talking about minimizing taxes. And if you've been working with Keystone Wealth Partners for any amount of time, you know one of the things that makes us unique is our emphasis on tax reduction and long-term tax planning. Because as you've heard me talk about before, one of the challenges in general with reducing taxes is that very few people actually look out, forward-thinking proactively down the road at how to reduce taxes. And one of the things that I want you to be thinking about right now is we have been conditioned for several years and even decades that the most efficient way to save for retirement is to save into tax-deferred accounts. Our 401k plans at work, IRAs, SEP IRAs, traditional IRAs, simples. And one of the benefits is, first off, is that when you put the money in there, you're able to claim that income later. So if you put $10,000 into your 401k and you made $100,000, well, now you only pay tax on 90. And so conventional wisdom typically is, well, I just saved $2,500. I put $10,000. If I didn't put that $10,000 in my 401k, I'm in a 25% tax bracket. I would have had to pay $2,500 in tax. I just saved that. Well, yes and no. You really didn't save it because you did not eliminate it. You simply went to the IRS and asked if you could pay it later. Can I claim that $10,000 of income at a later date? Now, wouldn't you agree that the only benefit from a tax standpoint to that contribution to your retirement plan is that if when you take it out down the road, you'll be in a lower bracket? You know, that's what we've always been told. Well, when we're done working, we'll be paying in a significantly lower bracket. But will we? And that's the question I want to pose this morning. That's what I want us really thinking about. You see, often once we retire, we have Social Security. We may have two forms of Social Security. We may have a pension. We may have multiple pensions. And then when we take distributions to live on out of our investment accounts in retirement, oftentimes those are coming from those 401ks or IRAs that we've rolled the money into, and they're fully taxable. And for those of you that are nearing or over 70 and a half, what happens when you hit 70 and a half? RMDs, required minimum distributions, where the IRS actually requires that you take distributions from those IRA accounts, whether you want to or not, and you pay tax on those distributions at whatever your tax bracket is. And it's stacked on top of your Social Security, which at that point is probably being taxed at 85%. And by the way, I don't mean 85% tax rate. I just mean 85% of your Social Security is being taxed. Your pension, depending on what type of pension it is probably fully taxable, meaning you're easily pushing it back into the 25% bracket. But what I want to talk about more so is that all assumes, oh, by the way, you have way fewer deductions as well, typically in retirement. You don't have any kids at home anymore. So a lot of the deductions that you enjoyed while you were working, you no longer are able to take advantage of. But then the gathering storm really is that all assumes that taxes are at the same rates as they were when you were saving. Now, if you're wondering, do you whether taxes are going to stay the same, go down, or go up, I want to give you some ideas and some things to chew on, because I absolutely think it is inevitable that taxes are going to increase, and they're going to increase substantially over time. Now, I don't know about with this current administration. I don't know if Donald Trump's going to increase taxes the next 4 years or anything like that. But what I'm looking at is from a macro level. Here are some of the reasons. Well, in short, here's why I think taxes are going to increase. Our government would be insolvent and go bankrupt without increased revenue. Well, what am I referring to? If you look back at Social Security starting in the 1930s when it was enacted, you could start taking Social Security at age 65. Average life expectancy was 62. There were 40 people paying into Social Security for every one person on Social Security. You see, it was designed never for this long-term primary retirement income tool. It was simply insurance against living too long. And it was designed to be solvent and could sustain itself based upon rates of return that were expected in perpetuity. Well, then what happened was the soldiers came back from World War II and they started making babies, a lot of babies. And at first thought, people said, well, this is great because there will be so many people paying into Social Security that it'll be fine. The program will work well. That would have been true had all of those children, the baby boomers, if they had all had as many children as their parents did. But as we know, most baby boomers had much fewer kids. Those baby boomers are now approaching Social Security and into Social Security age with significantly fewer people contributing to the program. And that 40-to-1 ratio that started back in the 30s is now 3-to-1. In the next 5 to 7 years, it's trending 2-to-1. And to make matters worse, we can now take Social Security at age 62, as early as 62, as most of you know. And that person on average will live until 85 and be on the program for 23 years. Here's the other component. The same demographic challenges that face Social Security apply to Medicare as well, and Medicaid. In fact, let's look at the math behind the country's fiscal problems from a different angle. The United States currently spends roughly 76 cents of every dollar it brings in on 4 items. If you can believe this, 4 items: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on our national debt. Now, absent of any changes in the part of Congress, that percentage of the government's revenue required to pay for these 4 big ticket items could balloon to 92 cents on every dollar by the year 2020. So we're just a few years away from 92 cents of every single dollar for the federal budget going between 4 areas: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and servicing the interest on our national debt. Now, I'm not a doom and gloomer. For those of you that know me well, I'm a perpetual bull on the long-term prospects of the stock market. I believe in America. I believe that our country is great. I'm thankful for everything we have. But folks, in light of that, so I firmly believe that we are not going to allow our country to become insolvent and go bankrupt. I also understand mathematics, which means without increasing taxes, our country would in fact go bankrupt. So for those of you that are kicking the can down the curb or maybe resisting looking at Roth IRA conversions, that's why when we talk with you, we say, we need to start looking at Roth IRA conversions. We need to accelerate distributions out of your IRA because right now we believe taxes are on sale. Taxes are on sale. We had a 40-year period from the mid-30s for the next 40 years where the top tax bracket never dropped below 70%. If you look at the history of taxes, we had a period in time at one point where the top tax bracket was 94%. Back in 1913, when they started doing federal taxes, it was 1%. They dipped their toe in the water at 1%. It ballooned all the way up over 70 by the late 30s. This has happened before, and if you look, since the Bush tax cuts, we are actually in one of the lowest historic tax environments we've been in the last 80 years. So why are we continuing to max out our deferrals? We need to start looking at how do we create tax-free vehicles, shift some of the money from tax-deferred accounts into tax-free vehicles, migrate some of our accounts, like I said, through accelerating distributions even beyond RMD amounts, Roth IRA converting, contributing to tax-free accounts, opening up LERPs. And again, many of you that are listening to this have already done this, and I commend you. But if I just want to be in front of you and continue to give you a little bit more information on why we're so passionate as a firm here at Keystone Wealth Partners about planning for your taxes, being proactive, because what I don't want to have happen is taxes could easily double over the next 10 or 20 years. And I don't want to see us get in a situation where we're kicking ourselves for having not been proactive and having not gotten money out at a tax bracket that we were comfortable with, and in turn now being forced in the future to pay at significantly higher brackets simply because we didn't have the foresight to look at the economic and demographic challenges facing our country. So if you want to know more about this, we're going to be talking to you about it at your individual reviews as they come up, looking at it from your specific situation related to your goals and related to your accounts. But if you have a lot of money still tax deferred, this is something that we really need to be talking with you about. If you're concerned about it and you want an extra appointment or you want to come in and chat with us about it right away, just feel free to call our office, 480-782-1034, 480-782-1034. If you have friends who you know for a fact have over $250,000 and most of which is saved in retirement style accounts and tax deferred accounts, forward this to them. They need to be aware of what's going on. They need to be proactive because my experience is most CPAs and most advisory firms out there are not talking with their clients about this. They're staying away from it. Tax is a challenge to administer. Tax is a lot of work. It's easier to just say, hey, these are the best mutual funds. Let's do this. So if you have friends or family members who need to know this information, who need to have us analyze and do our one-page retirement map review for them and have us analyze their situation, just forward this on to them and they can give our office a call and schedule a total no obligation retirement map review with us, and we can point them in the right direction related to what they need to be doing to reduce taxes, not just this year, but in the future, and actually develop some sort of tax strategy. So I appreciate you listening to me. I've kind of gone a lot longer than I was planning on doing, but I wanted to make sure that I got the point across that we really are passionate about helping you pay as few taxes, not just this year, but long term, so that everything that you've worked so hard for, we can make sure that we're not paying the IRS one penny more than we're legally required to over the next few decades. Thanks a lot for listening. I really appreciate your trust in us, your support, the fact that you are a client of ours at Keystone Wealth Partners. We know that we don't exist without you, and our passion is to really help you do a fantastic job and have peace of mind with what you've saved. Take care and have a great rest of your weekend.